The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 51. Den of Thieves. He woke up amidst the sound of a dispute. After gradually regaining consciousness, he discovered that his arms and legs had been bound tight, his back had a hard wall against it and his eyes were blindfolded. Two people in front of him appeared to be talking in hushed voices. Didn't you kill him outside?" a rough one asked. "Why did you bother with bringing him in?" "Big Lou, you idiot," another quiet one answered. "Didn't you hear what Little Six said? He misled those guys up the mountain, and had to give up 2 fingers and suffer a stab, to barely get them to believe him. If they didn't find anyone, they'll definitely come back, and when they find this guy dead there, they might find this place out of suspicion, too. We're only trying to drag this out, not attract troops into chasing us." "This is all Cripple Luo's fault," Big Lou said, dejected. "If he had clearly checked out the origins of those brats before taking them, we wouldn't be in such a mess." "You really can't blame him, though." The other was also dejected. "Brats go strolling around without any label stuck on them, so whoever knows whose children they are. To do stuff like this, you need sharp eyes, quick hands, and prompt decisions. He saw that they were well dressed and good looking, so he got them. He wasn't wrong for it. What do we do now, then? The Chenghua and the Western Depot have both chased us here. Should we send them back?" In accordance to the second-in-command's implication, he seems to have said not to. A mistake is just a mistake. Those imps will be transported south to be sold, and there's always someone willing to pay a high price for them. If we send them back now, the talons of those court hawks might shove us out to be the fall guys. Heh, and didn't you see the goods we got this time? That tender flesh will fetch at least 100 taels of silver per head. Those 2 are especially pretty, so maybe they'll sell for a couple hundred. When that happens, everyone's getting a minimum share of the figure. 5 taels. The man scoffed. "Can you be a bit more ambitious? Add a 0 after that." Big Lou sucked in a breath. What a concept 50 taels was. Tang Fan's own yearly salary didn't even amount to that much. Without a doubt, Ming officials suffered hard lots, from the ministers down to the lowliest officials. Everyone's pay was low, else he himself wouldn't be needing to write romance novels to supplement his income. 50 taels was no small amount for an ordinary commoner either, as a family of 5 only needed about 30 to live in a year. A redemption amount of a couple thousand taels, like Feng King's, was something only the rich could afford. But even so, many people had scrambled like ducks to crowd around her. This was obviously a hugely profitable industry and indicated that the truly wealthy were still numerous. It was thus unsurprising that the one before him would take such a severe risk for the high return of 50 taels. Hearing his description, Big Lou seemed to visualize that gleaming silver, and he started to chuckle with unlimited longing. "Brother Shin, you'll have to guide your littler brother, here. All I've done in the South Side gang prior to this is some pitiful little jobs, but how can I get into the second-in-command's high regards like that? You've always been his subordinate, so I'll follow whatever it is you say to do." Brother Shin was similarly crafty. "No way. All of us follow him, how would I have the skill to guide you? I'll be honest, what happened this time has kicked up a bit too big of a fuss. That one guy likely won't be able to shoulder it for us, so he'll have to send people for the search. The second-in-command's implied that he'll drag it out for 10 days to half a month. The court group will act in waves, and once the wind passes, its search efforts won't be as strong. After that, we'll take a boat from Tianjin down south, where the land and waters are vast. I don't believe they'll be able to track us down, then." Tang Fan's eyes were shut as he continued to feign unconsciousness, hoping to hear some more useful information. There was a throbbing pain at the back of his head, he suspected that he was bleeding from being hit with a brick. "But, Brother Shin, it seems like Lady Ninth's group is in the middle of trying to convince him to let the 2 best-looking brats go, right? It's said that they're children of court officials, and the people outside are pursuing so closely wholly because of them. If we let them go, the court won't go after us anymore. Even if we sell what's left, that'll still be a money maker. Brother Shin snorted. Idiot. They're just cowards, the second in command has the right idea. Now that things have gotten to this point, we can't just give them back and have everything be okay, since Wan will be lacking a scapegoat to bear the blame. Instead of that, we may as well go for broke. With them in our hands, we can negotiate terms better with those hawk talons. You're really smart, Brother Shin. You've seen right through the second in command's thoughts. Big Lu praised on end. Having said that, are we going to keep hiding here, or use the time to hurriedly leave while those men went up the mountain? Listening this far, there was suddenly no sound before him. He felt it odd until he suffered a hard kick to his calf, the pain making him grunt. Still faking sleep, his counterpart sneered. Immediately after that, the cloth strip blinding him was torn off. He squinted. Only one candle was lit in the room, its feeble light not at all preventing him from observing his surroundings. The room had mud walls up, down and all around, a secret area dug out of nowhere. There was only one chair and one blanket spread out on the floor. It couldn't get any simpler than that. He also took notice that there were 4 circular holes dug out in each corner of the house cave's roof, which were each slightly smaller than a man's palm. They appeared to be used for ventilation. His heart jumped, but his calf got kicked again before he could ponder further. He made a muffled sound of pain, twitching continuously from it. His hands were bound behind him so he couldn't even reach out to massage it. What are you looking at, shifty eyes? The Shin guy bellowed. No need to look. You got in, so don't even think about getting out. This was the first time in his life that someone had called him shifty-eyed, and the one that did it was a shifty man that sold people. It was so absurd, he didn't know how to react, though he did clear his throat. Have you 2 brothers misunderstood something? Presumably, you know that many people are looking for you outside right now. As it happens, I've come under secret orders from Commanding Officer Wan. I want to meet with your second in command to relay his words to him. Shin laughed coldly. Still acting? Don't think that we don't know that you're obviously a Shuntian prefect and that you have grouped up with the men chasing us. I'll tell you now that your life is in our hands, and whether you're killed or not is up to us. Quit using those smart-ass little ploys. They'll cost you your life instead of saving you. Tang Fan's heart sank, immediately going half cold. This wasn't because the man had threatened him but because the enemy remained concealed while his side was out in the open. They had already discovered his origins in detail, yet he knew not a thing about them, apart from what he had learned from Wang Ji. Seeing that Tang Fan was momentarily silent, Shin smiled in satisfaction. Be good and stay here. Don't think about playing any tricks. Maybe you'll be able to live for a few moments more. He then turned to Big Lu. I'm going to report to the second in command that this punk's awake. You stay and keep watch. Big Lu affirmed, and Shin left in a hurry. As his name indicated, Big Lu was tall and robust. The ceiling here was low, so someone like him had to stoop a little to stand, which was quite stifling. He could only sit on the chair which had been tottering to begin with. As soon as his butt hit it, it broke apart with a clatter and Big Lu followed after it with an ouch, landing solidly on his ass. Tang Fan wanted to laugh but couldn't, for fear of incurring the other's wrath. He did all he could to make his face serious and full of concern. Are you okay, brother? You must have landed on a bone. How about you rub some medicinal wine on it? Big Lu gave him a fierce glare. Where's wine going to come from in the middle of nowhere? Shut up or I'll stuff a chair leg in your mouth. Tang Fan sighed. I heard that other man say that your surname is Lu, so I'll just call you Brother Lu, all right? I can tell that you're a stately looking, and a man of obvious talent, much stronger than the unbearably thin bamboo reed that I am. You surely have excellent skill. If you were willing to serve the government, you might already be a squad leader for patrolmen. Why should you squander your good physique here? He put on a look of having a heartfelt talk, as he could tell from the previous exchange of words that Big Lou was clearly someone lacking in brains, so he intended to show some feelings in the hopes that he could get some more inside information. If that Ching guy had stayed behind instead and he still did this, he probably only would have incurred another kick. Sure enough, Big Lou had been flattered. Even if he was still ignoring him, the expression he held was slightly loosened up. Tang Fan continued with his efforts. Before I came in here, the Chenghua and Western Depot were on a joint manhunt for you. How their backings are, I don't need to explain, you should know, yes. Their methods are ruthless, and they have no scruples at all. They cannot be compared to the average Shuntian prefecture officials like me. If you fall into their hands, they'll take turns with tortures like piplay and 10 unsullied fingers, where death will be preferable to life. As of right now, no one has lost their life, yet. You've merely kidnapped a few children, meaning that there's absolutely still margin for discussion. In my own words, if you're willing to turn to the light and help me out, I can guarantee that you'll be wholly unharmed. Not only that, but you can be a Shuntian patrolman. Isn't that more impressive than a life of stowing away? He had spoken so painstakingly patient for so long, only for Big Lou to suddenly ask, how much yearly salary is there for a patrolman or whatever, then? Tang Fan had tried to persuade him so strenuously, yet had to casually tell the truth. About a dozen taels. As long as I work under the second in command, I'll get more than 50 taels a year. Why the hell would I follow you in earning a mere dozen? Big Lou looked at him with a face saying, are you crazy? Don't trick me. Brother Shin said that you officials only get a couple dozen taels a year once you're at the top. If I can't do that, then aren't I just shit out of luck? You may as well join up with us. The second in command will let you live well. Damn. A second of inattention, and now I'm the one being recruited. Tang Fan calmed himself, proceeded with assuming an appearance of just wanting to talk and use a gentle tone to lower the other's mental defenses. Speaking of which, how come I've been hearing this name of second in command so much? Your first in command is Ding Yumuo, and he's a celebrated hero. Big Lou was getting bored from doing nothing. Since someone was willing to chat with him to pass the time, he went along with it. That's true, but I'm not sure. Ever since I joined the gang, I've never seen the first in command. In my eyes, the second is the most powerful. His wisdom is comparable to Zhu something. Tsuga. Right, Tsuga. We're all very confident in him. Ever since I've been following him, my life's been getting better by the day. My woman at home can even wear silk stuff. That's really good. Even I can't wear silk, Tang Fan said with a smile. But does she know what you're doing, and isn't she living in fear every day? I haven't let her know. She does odd jobs outside because of me. Your home is in the capital then, yet you're stuck here now, aren't you afraid that she'll worry? There's nothing to be done with that bunch searching so closely. Still, this isn't that far from home. If I can ever get back, a Shishin will be more than enough to. Brother Lou, you and I have different standpoints, but we're fast friends, being able to talk to each other like this. I couldn't bear to watch a married couple get separated. Excuse me for asking, but have you ever thought about what will happen after this? The Western Depot will certainly scour the entire capital into tracking you all down. They might not be able to find you in these wildlands, but if you ever want to leave, you likely won't be able to. Big Lou scratched his head. There's nothing to be done about that, either. There's always danger in the search for wealth. The second in command isn't scared, so we aren't scared, and it'll still be hard for them to find this place. The second said that even though it's only a chi down from the surface, we won't be found as long as we don't go out, and can rest easy. Tang Fan felt elated, as he managed to extract two important information from Big Lu. One was that they were possibly still in that deserted village, and the other was that they were possibly underground. The South Side gang had used the advantage of the village's terrain and environment to dig out a couple of cellars that were enough to seek shelter in, serving as hideouts. With the vigilance of Suizhou's group, if they didn't find anyone up in the mountain, they would definitely come back down and look for him. In other words, if he got the chance to get out and make a report, or get news up to ground level, everybody here might get caught in one fell swoop. That's an acceptable method, he said, but are you going to be able to stay here forever? What are you asking so much for? Big Lu asked, defensive. Do you want to know where the exit is? I won't tell you. Tang Fan was speechless. It couldn't be said that this man was smart, as he had quickly handed Tang Fan a set of information. But, it couldn't be said that he was stupid, either, as he was still quite on guard, and in no way careless at critical moments. Tang Fan was a little unclear on whether he was genuinely stupid or just pretending to be. At that time, a dark chuckle came from the entrance. You're pretty skilled, buddy, to get Big Lu to talk. Come with me. Our second-in-command heard that you're awake and wants to see you. Shin had returned. Taking big strides over, he then roughly grabbed Tang Fan's shoulder and hefted him up. His arms were bound and he had been seated on the ground for a long time, making his body lose its center of gravity. He couldn't help but fall onto him when he was pulled. Shin pushed him away with a look of disgust. Look at how delicate you are. Are you one of those guys that plays with backyard flowers? This old guy ain't into that. Lay off a bit. He, too, wanted to burst into expletives, but his life was under the grasp of the one whose eaves he was under. He had to be well behaved. Master Tang squeezed out an apologetic smile, humbling himself. Sorry. My legs are numb, I didn't do it on purpose. My life is now in your hands, so how could I dare to act rashly? If I may ask, though, Brother Shin, why is your second-in-command calling for me? He asked, looking like he was currying favor. Shin looked at him with a disdaining laugh of mockery. How should I know? A softa like you that's afraid of death is best kept out of sight. If it wasn't for him saying that he wanted to see you, I would have sent you on your way long ago, and never have the luck of hearing your senseless talk. With one glance, Tang Fan caught sight of the bloodthirsty light flitting past his eyes. He understood immediately that he was a different sort from Big Lu. This man had to have spilled blood before and might have a lot of lives on his hands. As he couldn't use the same style of interaction on such a criminal, there was no use in saying more. He simply shut his mouth, getting ready to see where they went and to memorize the way. Unexpectedly, Shin picked up the cloth strip he had previously thrown onto the ground and blindfolded him again, then pushed him forwards. Tang Fan had no choice but to count his approximate steps as he walked. He perceived walking about 10 paces forwards, after which he was pushed into a right turn. Following about 3 paces, he could faintly hear the young voices of children, but it seemed that their mouths were stuffed up and could only make weak whines. Quickly following that, he heard someone lowly shouting things like, "Be good or we won't give you food tomorrow." His heart jumped, but before he could think, he was again pushed into a left turn. After about 5 paces and then another right turn, he was finally stopped by a push down on his shoulder. "Second in command, he's here," Shin stated. "Bring him in," Tang Fan heard another man say. Preoccupied with keeping note of his position, he stumbled from getting pushed inside hard by Shin, and fell straight forward onto the floor in a sorry state. "Did he kill your father, Shin Shidu? Why are you so rough?" a delicate voice rebuked from nearby. Shin Shidu snickered. "Does it upset you, Lady Ninth? So, you really did take a fancy to this guy, and that's why you won't let the second-in-command kill him? He's so weak. Could he even service you properly? How about you let this brother do it? Is this how you manage your underlings, Deng Shuke? Allowing them to be so rude to me, she said, voice dark. Why haven't you apologized to Lady Ninth yet, Shitu? The same voice that had told him to come in said. That gentle tone had to be Deng Shuke, second in command in the South Side gang. Shin Shitu had no choice but to reluctantly apologize to her. Are you Master Tang of the Shuntian Prefecture? Deng Shuke asked. I've long heard of your illustrious reputation. Tang Fan smiled. I'm no more than an insignificant prefect, what illustrious reputation. You've really overpraised me. However, my eyes were bound too tightly just now and the force of it really hurts. Could you help me with getting it off, first? Don't you just want to see what we look like? Why beat around the bush? Shitu, help him with that. Give him a chair to sit on, too. With the blindfold removed, Tang Fan exhaled, then took a measure of everything before him. This was another narrow and cramped inner room, the difference was in its furnishings being much more comfortable than where he had just been. Not to mention the fact that the chairs these people were sitting on weren't rickety in the least. There were 3 people seated ahead. The leftmost one was an elder that hadn't ever spoken, the middle one was Deng Shuke, and the one to the right was the pretty Lady Ninth. In addition to Shin Shitu, there was someone standing behind Deng Shuke and Lady Ninth. They ought to be a personal bodyguard. Deng Shuke, as his name suggested, has a look of a scholar of around 30 years of age, and possessing of a neatly trimmed beard upon his jaw. Tang Fan had heard out of Wang Zhi's mouth that despite being only the second in command of the South Side gang, the man's power was quite great. Due to the leader infrequently appearance as of late, Deng Shuke instead became the main authority, and gang members knew only of him, not Ding Yumu. Aside from human trafficking, the gang ran brothels and gambling dens, a set of lending houses, and did all sorts of other lucrative, shady business that dripped with grease. Since they have connections with those in the court and various officials, their business was profitable all year round and they got increasingly undiscerning the more influence they had, hence why they even had the guts to snatch the daughter of the Grand Tutor. They hadn't expected for things to get so serious this time around though, where even Wantong couldn't protect them, and the Western Depot would take up the job of doggedly tracking them down to the end. They had to flee here out of a lack of option. Now that he had seen Deng Shuke in person, Tang Fan made a mental judgment. Despite his gentle looks, this was definitely a cruel tyrant. However, when his line of sight shifted to the nearby Lady Ninth, he was startled. She tittered upon seeing his expression. Why so shocked, Sir Tang? Have you met me before? He swiftly resumed his calm demeanor and smiled as well. I won't hide it from you, miss. Your appearance is somewhat similar to an old friend's. I actually did almost confuse you for her. She covered her mouth and shook with laughter like a flowering branch, throwing him a flirty look. You guessed right. I do indeed look a lot like her, and not only that, we're sisters. So, Lady Chen, then, he answered calmly. It appears that she ought to be the elder. You have good eyes. She didn't deny it, so it was true. This Lady Ninth was the little sister of Li Man's concubine. Back when the Li family case had happened, Lady Chen had gone missing. He hadn't expected that he would ever meet her sister. No wonder his identity had been exposed. She was the one that had given it to them. Once their exchange was over, Deng Shuke began to speak with composure at last. You're in a good mood, Lady Ninth. Great calamity is about to befall us, yet you can still reminisce on old times. She shot him a glance. You speak wrongly. You're the one that incited all of this. If you hadn't kidnapped those 2 hot potatoes, would these officials have been provoked into a frenzy right now? She turned back to Tang Fan with a smile. You're a wise one, Sir Tang. We didn't mean to cause this. In your opinion, what should we do? Tang Fan wasn't sure of the status this woman had in the South Side gang, but upon seeing the fleeting anger on Deng Shuke, he went along with her. This is easy to handle. I know you all didn't intend to defy the court, so if you just set these children free, we can act like this whole thing never happened. What weight do your words carry, Sir Tang? Deng Shukai asked gloomily. As you know, the Chenghua and the Western Depot are responsible for hunting you down. I have a bit of a friendship with the Western Depot's director. The pressuring issue in this matter is because there were court officials' children amongst those that had been abducted, which has alarmed His Majesty. If you're willing to concede a bit and hand them over to us, this will all get played down. The Chenghua is even easier. I've heard that the relationship between your South Side gang and commanding officer Wan is good, so one sentence out of you will be more effective than 10 out of me. Before Deng Shukai could speak, Lady Ninth piped up. I told you that Sir Tang is most reasonable, second in command. Do you still not believe that? No matter how good a commodity those kids are, they won't be worth more than 1,000 taels when they're sold, while those Western Depot wardens could very well take our lives. Now that they have imperial orders, they'll come relentlessly biting us like rabid dogs. Are our lives worth that amount? You really are an expert outside of the field, Lady Ninth, Deng Shukai answered slowly. The top brass puts heavy importance on money. Without those 1,000 taels, my assignment for this year won't be accomplished, and now that things have gotten so messy, Wan Tong will fear implication. He'll be certain to find an unlucky devil to blame. If I return the children now, I'll be that unlucky devil. As clever as you are, you must have thought of that, yes. Or are you consciously wanting to push this den into a pit of fire? Hearing that, Tang Fan came to comprehend something. In the inn where Lady Chen had vanished, the mark of the White Lotus Society had been left behind. So, if Lady Ninth was her sister, she must also be related to it, meaning that the top brass Deng Shukai had referred to was likely also the White Lotus Society. From their interaction, it wasn't hard to see that the two had a bit of conflict between them. Their views didn't conform with one another, and as she wasn't a gang member, she was a representative sent by the White Lotus Society. Thus, even though she didn't like him much, she couldn't lose her temper at him. Her opinion was that he should make peace with the officials by handing the children over, but his opinion was the exact opposite, hence the disagreement. Tang Fan got secretly scared when he thought about it. If Deng Shukai picked escaping to the south to resolve this, wouldn't it be unnecessary for him to exist? Moreover, this woman was a member of the White Lotus Society. Why was she doing all she can to defend him? Women's thoughts are truly hard to fathom. Lady Ninth smiled. Your words are so serious, second in command. You're among the best in the South Side gang. If something happens to you, and then Ding Yumo can't control the situation at large, won't the South Side gang be instantly disbanded? I simply believe that things haven't yet reached that extent. To have a blood feud with those court officials would have no benefit to you nor to me given the present circumstances. If you ruin our very important affairs because of this, there will be no need for those officials to hold any grudge against you, as the society will deal with you directly. Do you want that? Too much information had been revealed in those words, and Tang Fan was nearly unable to take it in. Some cold sweat seeped from his palms and back, as the more he knew right now, the worse it would be for him. As expected, Deng Shukai's face sank and he swept his gaze to Tang Fan. Don't tell me that you've gotten a flare-up of can't walk straight upon seeing a handsome man disease, Lady Ninth? You've said so much right in front of this punk's face. Looks like he can't be kept around. I'll help you by getting rid of him in your stead, so that disaster doesn't make its way back to you someday. With that, a silver light flashed from his sleeve, and a dagger came out of it, heading straight for Tang Fan. Tang Fan's hands were tied up and he was seated on a chair. How would he have the time to dodge? He could only lean back on automatic reflex, but the other moved at lightning speed, coming up before him in the blink of an eye. The dagger shone icily, its point puncturing the clothes on his chest, and was soon about to pierce his skin, but a shout from Lady Ninth was heard, "You dare try to kill him in front of me." As soon as that was said, the shadow of a whip swept across. It did not hit a person, but that dagger was wrapped up with it and was pulled away, seized right out of Deng Shuke's hand. This incident occurred in the span of a breath. Everyone was dumbstruck. By the time the two subordinates remembered to protect their leader, the confrontation was already over. "I have a way to get the best of both worlds," she said coldly. "Are you going to listen or not?" Deng Shuke snorted. "What best of both worlds? How could I not know what you're thinking? You just want this guy to be your lover." End chapter. The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 52. A new nickname. Lady Ninth stroked the fine hair beside her face, affecting a cute smiley look. "What's wrong with that? Since you're worried about him divulging secrets, so let him join us. Won't that be an eternal solution?" Deng Shuke laughed in mockery. "Are you dreaming? He's an imperial official. Men like him are typically the most holier than thou of all. Why would he keep company with crooks like us? That's not true. No matter how holier than thou sages are, don't they still have to eat and sleep? Dare I ask how much your yearly salary is, Sir Tang?" Why was yet another person asking him this? He shook his head. "It's shameful to say, according to the precedent set by the great ancestor, 6th ranks like me get 96 dan, 4,800 kilograms, a year, but most of that gets converted into cloth and paper money. The latter thing is basically waste paper and might not even be worth that many silver taels. In other words, I'm poor. I practically have to drink northwestern wind." She smiled, covering her lips. "Can you even afford meat regularly?" He laughed dryly. "No. I have to write romance novels to supplement my income. Let's stop speaking of embarrassing things. I have a generous gift for you, Sir Tang. I'm not sure whether you'll accept it or not." She took out a few silver banknotes from her lapels, which still carried her personal fragrance, as she handed them over for him to see. He gave them a look, and, oh, dear. There were 10 notes written with the denomination for 100 taels, summing up to 1,000 taels in Huatong banknotes. That was some sincere treatment, right there. What could 1,000 taels do? It could buy a home like the one Suizhou currently lived in and still have some left over, but that was only due to high housing costs in the capital. If this were another area, it would be more than enough for becoming a landlord that never needed to worry about food and drink. Lady Ninth giggled. "This is but my greeting gifts. If you become a member of our society, countless treasures await you." "You're pretty generous, Lady Ninth," Deng Shuke said darkly. "With all that money you have, wouldn't it be better to aid this little brother in bypassing this crisis, instead?" She side-eyed him. "You don't need to be so sour. Aren't the assets that you've accumulated over the years 100 times more than this? These are from my own private funds. I'm simply delighted to see a talent like Sir Tang, and I need to attract such people, is all. You know that what we're lacking the most now were strategy-minded people. I've been the overseer's envoy for a long time and often hear the leader say that we have to get some more people like him to come to our splendid society. If the leader knew that Sir Tang was willing to join, they would likely give him even more than this." Tang Fan coughed fakely. "Many thanks for your praises, Lady Ninth, but as a court official, I've received the Emperor's grace. I can never be reduced to an outlaw." "Don't be afraid," she giggled, "I'm not asking you to resign. You can keep being an official as always, you'll just be a member on the sly. If the need ever arises, we'll ask you to be a little flexible on certain worldly things and that'll be enough. We won't treat you poorly, of course. You could continue how you are, only with additional income. Does that not satisfy both our ends? If I verbally agree, would that be regarded as joining?" Deng Shuke laughed before she could answer. "You think it'd be that pretty? If you agree to join, you'll have to get yourself engraved with the society's mark, so as to prevent you from betraying it. Seeing that Lady Ninth did not retort back at all, Tang Fan knew that those words were true. He looked at the bank notes, revealing a slightly affected and incessantly conflicted look. "You will let me think it over, right?" She smiled. "I can, of course, but don't think too long. Our time is limited. Do consider it thoroughly. If you agree, we'll immediately let these children go and you can step forward to be gifted with that great contribution, as well." Deng Shuke huffed. "I seem to have not agreed yet, have I? If you consent, I'll put in some good words to our superiors and exempt you from 10% of your assignment for this year. Like so, I'll get the credit of a referral, you'll get your wish granted with money saved, and the society will gain another talent. Is that not one act with 4 results?" The other said nothing else. Lady Ninth gave Tang Fan a tender look, then ordered for him to be brought back. He was blindfolded as per the rules but had mentally recorded his route on the second trip anyways. Secretly corresponding the layout with the surface area, then adding that onto what Big Lou had said before, it wasn't hard for him to draw one conclusion: the area he was in had likely been made by gang members linking up the cellars of the deserted village's dwellings. Said houses were close together, so digging out connections between their cellars wouldn't have been hard at all. Few people ever came here, too, which gave them ample conditions to do as they willed. No wonder Big Lou had claimed that it was safe here. If the original cellar entrances were sealed up and people couldn't find the new ones, getting in would be unfeasible. It was hard to live here, though, being little better than the dark tunnel that Tang Fan's group had traversed through. Therefore it could only be used for temporary shelter, not long-term residency. Because of the trouble they were in and their carriage having broken down from being loaded with too many people, Deng Shuke's group needed to lie low here, though they surely had to be itching to leave to the surface. If Tang Fan managed to escape right now and the Jinyue or the Western Depot also just happened to be outside, they would be able to catch this group all in one net. Too bad there was obviously no such beautiful thing about to happen. The reality was that he was trapped here, his own life practically not guaranteed, unless he joined their criminal organization, and got carved with an annoying mark that would act as a contract. If that mark really did get sliced onto him, even a jump into the Yellow River wouldn't wash it off. Owing to Lady Ninth's expressed interest in recruiting him, Shinshitu was a tiny bit restrained on the return trip and was not as impolite as before. Tang Fan was returned to the previous cellar, yet Big Lou was no longer around. He had likely been called out to do something. Tang Fan took advantage of this time to smile at Shinshitu. "Brother Shin, you've seen that I'm going to become one of you soon. Can you help me by loosening this? The rope's binding is quite uncomfortable. I'm just a scholar, so I couldn't run anyways." Why would Shinshitu ever be willing to do that? "You'll have to go ask the second in command. I can't act on my own. Lady Ninth gave me those 1,000 taels. I feel in my heart that if I accept, we'll be comrades later on. Big Lou and you were the first I met here, and discord leads to concord, so you two feel more familiar than anyone else when I look at you. If you take the trouble to help me out, I'll give you 500 taels for you to split with him. No need to see me as an outsider from here on out." Shinshitu's eyes lit up, expression easing up at once, but he still pretentiously declined. "That won't do. She gave it to you, after all." Tang Fan quit smiling. "If you don't accept it, I'll see you as the outsider, Brother Shin. It goes without saying that you'd be one of us. Why be a stranger, Sir Tang? If you enter the society, you'll automatically be someone of the overseers, and your status will be much, much higher than this little brother's. When that time comes, you'll have to look after us a lot more, eh?" As he spoke, he reached out and helped Tang Fan loosen his binds. His wrist had been strained until there was blood coming out of it and it hurt awfully when bumped, but he couldn't care much about that. He simply fished out the stack of bank notes, then handed 5 sheets to Shinshitu. "By the by, No need to call me Sir Tang if we're going to be familiar with each other, Brother Shin. You have more experience, so I'll have to trust you with giving me some pointers. The man took the bank notes, placidly placed them into his lapels, then sighed. What pointers? I've been following the second in command for 6 years, yet I'm still muddling about in the South Side gang. I've never seen the overseer before, and it was only after meeting Lady Ninth did I know that we were even connected to them. They chatted a bit more, their friendship appearing to quickly get closer with the help of the silver notes. I'm going to go patrol the exits, Shin Shidu said, so that they don't get found out. You'd best stay here, cause if the second in command finds out, I won't be able to give him a good explanation for it. Tang Fan lightly smiled and nodded. I understand. You're busy, Brother Shin, but could you get me a bowl of water? I'm quite thirsty. Money could indeed move the mind. How hard is that to do? Shin Shidu asked breezily, then hurriedly away to fetch it. As soon as the man left, Tang Fan put away his smile. Despite being blindfolded both ways, he had heard the sounds of footsteps and talking by the wayside. According to his conservative estimate, the number of underlings Deng Shukai had here was no less than 12 to 20. This small number was likely derived from the fact that this area wasn't spacious and couldn't contain many people. Otherwise, with how big a business the South Side gang was, and with how Deng Shukai's position was, there definitely wouldn't be such a small number of subordinates present. Thinking back to it now, Deng Shukai's group hadn't been totally perfect in their diversion tactic. Simply put, Tang Fan's group had been too hasty, worried that these people would escape if they were too late, so they hadn't took the time to thoroughly analyze the capture man's confession and went up to the mountain as per the information he gave. If they had instead carefully searched the village, they might have discovered the entrance to this hidden area. Yet, having said that, even if Suizhou and the others did discover that they had been deceived and turned back, it apparently wouldn't be of any use. Their enemies were many and their allies few. As soon as these crooks put a knife against a child's neck, they would be in a bind, unless Wang Ji was able to hurry back over in time. In spite of these worries, Tang Fan did not stew in them. He poured out the bowl of water into a corner, shed his outer garment to wrap the bowl in it, then viciously slammed it against the ground. A muffled sound was heard, and when he undid the wrap, the bowl had since broken into several large pieces. He stowed the fragments away, after which he shuffled out of the cellar he had been confined in, then went to the room where the imprisoned children were in his memory. There were 2 people guarding it. As soon as they saw Tang Fan, they immediately stood up, looking fierce. Who are you? He cupped his hands and smiled. Big brothers, I'm the guest your second in command invited over. I've come to take a look at the kids. Using the opportunity during this conversation, he had already surveyed the situation inside the room. More than 10 children had been thrown into a corner, hands tied and mouth stuffed up. Each of them had eyes filled with fear, all huddled in with their shoulders touching each other, as if they could get a bit of secure feelings in doing so. He also saw that among them was a chubby little girl, one of her cheeks slightly swollen and red, who was staring right at him in extreme excitement. If her mouth wasn't blocked up, she likely would have started shouting immediately. He gave her a look to have her keep calm. She understood, quickly quieting down and making no more sounds. The 2 men naturally refused to let Tang Fan in, shouting, berating, and shoving him. What's going on? Came a delicate voice. Tang Fan immediately knew who it was without turning his head. Lady Ninth, the 2 guards promptly saluted. Hello, Lady Ninth. Tang Fan cupped his hands as well. I should let you know that my little sister is amongst the children caught. I followed tonight precisely because of her. Lady Ninth smiled faintly. So that's how it is. No wonder you ventured to put yourself in harm's way. How very admirable. He smiled bitterly. If she hadn't been captured, would I have ever bitten off more than I could chew by making life difficult for you all? As that's the case, wouldn't it be unreasonable for me to forbid it? Sir Tang is only going in for a visit. After a quarter hour, remember to come find me in the room you were in earlier. Upon receiving the coquettish looks she cast at him, his face went red and he looked like he wanted to peek a couple more times at her, yet was afraid to. She giggled from teasing him, then departed with a sway to her hips. It really didn't need to be said that the graceful way she carried herself was immensely attractive to men. Such a fact could be discerned just from the way the guards stared at her retreating figure. With Lady Ninth's permission, Tang Fan entered without a hitch. The children's faces and clothes were filthy, but their charming features and that good fabric material could still be seen. He noticed that there was one boy and one girl that looked particularly delicate and would surely become even more outstanding after a few years of growth. They were probably Zhu Yang's daughter and Assistant Minister Geng's grandson that everyone was overturning the sky for. With those looks, it wasn't surprising that the traffickers got too greedy, then incited this big mess. As for the other kids, they were all from fairly wealthy families and had been raised up with fine features. The most understated one was actually Dong herself, but the human traffickers had perhaps seized her along with them based on the mentality of don't let any small fry go and the more the merrier, since she was fair-skinned. Tang Fan couldn't show much care for the others. He crouched before Dong, patted her on the head, then leaned in close to her ear. "I'll talk, you listen. Don't make a sound." She nodded, staring at him on and off. He took the cloth wad out of her mouth. "I know you to be sensible, so I'll have to ask you to help with keeping watch on these little brothers and sisters of yours. When and if someone bursts in to rescue you, these villains are certain to resist like their life depends on it. You can't just go running around because you're afraid, you have to obediently wait here for us to save you. Got it?" She nodded again, using a mosquito-like voice to speak with. "Don't worry, big brother. I'll look after them like you said." He was quite gratified. What he was most worried about was not that the lives of the children would be in danger, since they were Deng Shuke's money trees. Unless it was the last resort, he would never abandon nor harm them, else he wouldn't have hidden them away here. His worry was that if Suizhou's group really did find this place, a brutal battle would be unavoidable and these thoughtless children would run around at random in a blind panic. If they got injured by undiscerning fighters, the goal of this whole expedition would be wasted. They couldn't exchange many quiet words before a quarter hour passed in a wink. He knew that although Lady Ninth appeared to be easy to talk to, she was a cunning character and it was only because of her conflict with Deng Shuke that she seemed to be comparatively easier to get through to. He didn't tarry much, hurriedly giving a once through to Dong before he got up and left. The cloth had been removed from her mouth yet she had made no big scene, instead consoling the others into calming down. She was relatively older amongst the children and because she had suffered a slap on Zhu Yueping's behalf, they all subconsciously had quite the trust in her, willing to listen. Even though they still sniffled, they ultimately and gradually agreed to be quiet. Seeing that she was able to quell them, the guards were delighted at having clear ears, so they didn't stuff the cloth back into her mouth. In their eyes, they were just a bunch of brats that couldn't make any waves whatsoever, anyways. However, at an angle they couldn't see, Dong was now holding a big, sharp piece of porcelain. Meanwhile, Tang Fan returned to where was originally kept to see Lady Ninth sitting there, body sinuous and conveying grace. She was even more alluring than her older sister. What a shame that this beauty was nothing more than a pretty serpent. Upon seeing him, she pursed her lips into a smile. "You've come back." How ambiguous that sounded, like a wife talking to her husband that had just returned home. Face remaining unchanged, he cupped his hands like he hadn't heard that. "I've troubled you with waiting for long, Lady Ninth. My heart was a little upset from seeing my sister, so I tarried a bit." She smiled. "That's a normal human emotion for when siblings see each other. But, since we're so familiar, you don't need to call me Lady Ninth, Master Tang call me Ahan." That's my nickname. When did the serpent turn into a praying mantis? He thought, depressed, though his face showed a flattered expression. Isn't that too much? What's too much? Is it a bad nickname? He shook his head. Of course it isn't. Lotus incense afresh, drawn barges afloat, makes a gent ever recall Yangzhou. It's beautiful to think of, so how can it be bad? Note, the character for lotus, Han, is used in Ahan. I don't understand that verse too much, but it sounds really beautiful. She showed a look of being enchanted. Scholars truly are different to be gifted with talent for speech. Even their flattery is all nice to hear. He chuckled. Though I am a scholar, I cannot invert black and white, or right and wrong. You are indeed as beautiful as a lotus, and resemble your namesake. Should I be saying that you aren't pretty? No woman hated to be praised on their looks, and Tang Fan's speech could coax even sparrows down from the sky. She beamed upon hearing his words. Will you still be calling me Lady Ninth? She pouted flirtatiously. Ahan, he said, going along with her suggestion. Happily, she agreed, then reached out to pull him into a sit. He did so without waiting for her to touch him. They weren't seated close together, but also weren't too far apart. Lady Ninth forced herself to express satisfaction with this, gazing at him tenderly. Do you realize how dangerous your situation is right now, Master Tang? He revealed a very surprised look. Dangerous? Why do you say that? Didn't you say that whatever society you're in wants to recruit me? She was entertained by his expression. My White Lotus Holy Society, it is. This is true, but it's also just my own notion. Deng Shuke actually wants to kill you. Tang Fan let out an ah, divulging some other appropriate reactions. They had to be measured exactly. He couldn't respond with too much dread and too much cowardice, as that would cause her to look down on him. Since she was wanting to recruit him, he couldn't appear too weak-willed. His reaction being too dull wouldn't do either, as it would seem too artificial. I don't understand, Ahan. What good does killing me do for him? Light as a feather from his utterance of Ahan, Lady Ninth smiled lightly, after which she became grave. I advocated for you to join our group and for those children to be returned, since the authorities who you could make peace with, were hunting them down. You heard as much when you were in there. Seeing him nod, she sighed. Unfortunately, he staunchly disagrees. He wants to take them all away, because he'll be able to sell them for high amount and take in a huge sum, at the bare minimum. He wouldn't eliminate them unless he was forced to. As for you, he doesn't want to bow his head to those court officials, so he feels that keeping you around is a burden. Ahan, there's some things that I'm quite puzzled about, but I'm not sure if I should ask them. She placed her hand on his thigh and squeezed. You can ask. Why feigned politeness? He really couldn't take this behavior of hers. Goosebumps crawled over nearly his whole body as he resisted the urge to slap her hand away, doing his best to not pay attention to her hand while it was on his leg. I previously heard you say that you were dispatched by the overseer. It's reasonable to say that your status ought to be higher than his. Why do you have to obey him? Who said that I have to obey him? There's simply a lot of his subordinates around, making it so that I can't openly oppose him. In any case, the South Side Gang was founded by his hand. Isn't there still the first in command, Ding Yumuo? He interrupted. You're dumb. That man was just a puppet made up to dupe outsiders. Deng Shuke is the real gang leader. Like so, Tang Fan had a sudden realization. To be honest, the group of Jinyi who was with me when we were pursuing their tail currently went up the mountain. When they find no one there, they're bound to soon return. If they then dig up 3 chi of earth all around the village, they might be able to find us here pretty quickly. If this goes according to your plan, both sides will be appeased, but if Deng Shuke refuses to surrender, how will he be able to escape? Fancy that you're a scholar, how have you not heard about crafty rabbits having 3 burrows? He will leave this place and go into the mountains, there's a fortress there that's another one of his strongholds. Had his carriage not broken down part way through, he wouldn't be stuck here. He's dragging his feet in leaving because he's waiting for his fortress subordinates to come receive him, so that he's not struck by the Chenghua as soon as he steps out. Then, after he leaves, how will I not be killed, he whispered. Is this not what I've come seeking you out for? If you want to keep your life, you have to join our holy society. Once the mark of a lotus flower is carved onto you, you will be one of us. In the rules of the society, those that murder a fellow member are to be hunted down by all members, then turned into mincemeat by their blades. Deng Shuke will thereupon never dare to act against you. I can save you, sweetheart. Hurry and take off your robes so that I can mark you. Tang Fan, of course, did not wish to be marked at all. He was only acting cordial with Lady Ninth to scout out a bit more information. Now that he had brushed against this immense behemoth, he gradually came to understand how tremendous the power of the White Lotus Society, who could both bribe court officials and collude down with influential gangs. No wonder Li Zilong had been able to stir up the capital into chaos. No wonder the Chenghua had been searching all this time, yet had failed to extinguish the group. He didn't answer her words but rather showed a faintly yearning tinge. I'll be blunt, Ahan. I'm really quite useless as a 6th-rank official. Putting aside my low salary, I'm mistreated in all aspects. Even my palace honorate and Hanlin backgrounds are now worthless. I'm not sure what kind of figure your leader is, but since they're able to agitate the great Ming's weather all by their lonesome, I know that we're not on the same level. After I enter your society, will I ever have the fortune to pay them a visit? Chances for that will be plentiful, of course. You just have to join. He had been thinking to get some information about the society's headquarters, but Lady Ninth was a wary person. She talked in a roundabout way, not divulging their true circumstances while wholeheartedly insisting that he join. Presumably, her licentious mannerisms were just an external facade, and it was only through her discord with Deng Shuke that Tang Fan had managed to keep his life until then. Quickly thinking, he sighed. Back in the day, Deist Li saw the Forbidden City as his own home, entering it whenever he pleased. It was said that he could summon the elements and turn cast beings into soldiers, really godlike. What a shame that he was beheaded later on. I'll never get a look at his grace. She grinned furtively. Even you say that he's godlike, so how could he die so easily to the talons of the court's eagles? He was greatly shocked upon hearing this, uncertain as to whether her statement was true or false. He hasn't died yet, he asked, pleasantly surprised. Lady Ninth laughed without words, not answering him. She could be labeled as having the ultimate skill of keeping people in suspense. Sweetheart, I'll be honest. Our society has a pressing need for talents like you. Even though your official's post is minor, if you have our secret backing, won't the promotions you want be just around the corner? After that, if we have the need, you can lend us your hand. Is this not both sides coming to an agreement and satisfying the conflicting demands? Furthermore, you only get so much salary per year. If you join us, glory and riches will surge right to you. Is there anyone in this world that would rather die poor, not having the sky-soaring wealth of a promising future? To put it simply, she meant that he would act as the society's mole in the court. He put on a moved but hesitant look. You've spoken correctly. That's indeed both sides getting the best of this. I'm just worried about the brand, after all, I am an official. If someone discovers it on me, not even a dive into the Yellow River will get me clean. How about this? I'll promise to join, but don't brand me. Is that all right? She narrowed her eyes in a tight smile. Of course it isn't, Master Tang. If you don't show a bit of good faith, why would I venture to hand you those children? Tang Fan smiled bitterly. But even if I do join, Won't Deng Shuke prevent me from taking his money trees away from him? Getting in close to him, she laughed quietly. Truthfully speaking, I have the overseer's token of command. Unless he wants to betray them, he won't dare to disobey me. Heart twitching, he gave a look of epiphany. A fair, slender hand suddenly touched his shoulder, then tore half of his outer robe off with all the momentum of a thunderclap closing in on the ears. Dear Master Tang, you cannot be overcautious when doing great things. How about I help you decide? I'll mark you on your lower back so that no one will ever find it. Sir Tang turned pale with fright. It wasn't because he was just about to get molested but because he feared that she would discover the broken porcelain he had hidden in his robes. Don't mess around, don't. Let me think on it. I'll think on it, he repeated, simultaneously trying to pull his clothes back up. Lady Ninth giggled but appeared to not want to waste any more time. She climbed him right over whilst drawing an engraving all out of her own lapels. At exactly that moment, a voice fell down from the heavens to become his savior star. I was wondering where you had gone to, Lady Ninth. Turns out you're just flirting with this punk. Deng Shuke stood at the entryway, face overcast. We're setting off immediately. This man's a burden, so let me kill him. If you want a pretty boy, wait until we leave. You can have as many as you want, then. Lady Ninth also stood. Would those other pretty boys have an official status like him? If I can rope him into the society, it'll be a great boon. How about we both take a step back? Tang Fan's little sister is amongst those kids, leave her behind and take the rest. After you leave, everyone will go their own ways to get their own wealth. No, he answered resolutely. He knows too much. He can't be set free. Her face cooled down. She drew a token of command out of her arms. Meeting with this token is like meeting with the leader. Do you still dare to defy me? His expression was indeterminate. A long while later, he swiftly reached out to snatch the token, sneering as he did so. I've tolerated you long enough, bitch. You always act like you have the power and make things harder for me all the time. It would be better to just dispose of you here, then blame it on those officials. Lady Ninth was shocked, having never anticipated that this man could be so very daring. Her reaction was a bit sluggish, her token almost getting seized. Upon seeing him hack at her with a long saber, she quickly dodged to the side, grabbed the flexible whip wound around her waist, and moved forwards. The two immediately fought into a fray. Tang Fan was surprised that their long-standing, accumulated anger would result in infighting here and now. No matter how smart he was, when faced with this present predicament, there was no way for him to get out, as there were hurdles on all sides. He had no other option but to draw things out for as long as possible and hopefully wait for reinforcements to arrive. Yet, before those reinforcements could come, Deng Shuke and Lady Ninth had started brawling. Saber light and whip shadows crisscrossed inside the room. At risk of being swiped, Tang Fan watched out for an opportunity, then rolled to the side, using an opening to scramble into the passageway. However, he didn't scramble towards the area where Adong's group was kept, he instead went to look for aid for Lady Ninth. End chapter.